2/3 of the world's cancer-related deaths can be traced back to tobacco. Knowledge of the correlation between cancer-related deaths and tobacco has been around for decades. However, it was not publicly recognized as a national health problem until the 1950s, after successful marketing campaigns to attract tobacco consumers had already become part of popular culture. In 1953, when Time and Life magazines published the results of a scientific study linking cancer and tobacco, the tobacco companies encountered new challenges for maintaining their consumer base. In order to prevent drops in sales, these companies explored new advertising strategies that focused on tobacco safety and the recruitment of new customers. The tobacco industry gained momentum almost a quarter into the 20th century. By the beginning of World War I, the advancement of manufacturing allowed for the tobacco industry to produce even more than it ever had before. The new stresses of the machine age encouraged the workers to seek new vices, such as alcohol and tobacco use. In 1917, after the United States entered into World War I, about 5 billion cigarettes were given as rations to the soldiers. Post-war, thousands of soldiers came back with the tobacco addiction much stronger than they had prior to the war. As the consumer base increased, the tobacco industry explored new ways to appeal to their buyers. The companies highlighted the image of the soldier in their advertisement in order to sell more cigarettes to the United States. By the 1920s, most Americans enjoyed an economic prosperity. The consumer culture became much more common during this time period. These advertisements embodied the image of the 20s by portraying a glamorous and successful life. Mass marketing of consumer products became much more common as people purchased radios and attended movie theaters. This was an exciting new tool for the tobacco industry because it allowed them to advertise to a broader audience.
Be happy, go lucky, get better taste today.
Using medical endorsements was another strategy of the tobacco companies. Doctors were the most popular spokesperson for cigarette advertisements. The tobacco industry used the strategy of linking tobacco consumption to health benefits. By the mid-1930s, Philip Morris took the use of health claims a step further, designing a campaign that used a new strategy of referring directly to research conducted by physicians, claiming that their cigarettes were proven to be less irritating. Cigarettes were thought of as sanitary, and doctors informed the public that it cleaned out your lungs. This strategy led the public to believe that cigarettes were not harmful. In 1941, America entered into the Second World War, boosting tobacco sales to record-breaking levels of consumption. Cigarettes were so popular among the troops that numerous camps around Europe were nicknamed after various cigarette brands. During this time, it was believed and promoted by advertisers that cigarettes actually helped anxiety, a useful message during wartime for both soldiers and loved ones at home. Although earlier studies linked cancer and tobacco use, the release of new studies by 3 scientists in 1953 was a watershed moment for public opinion. With the discovery that tobacco caused cancerous tumors, 2 of the most renowned magazines in the United States, Time and Life magazine, dedicated several pages to the story. As a result, the tobacco industry encountered new challenges to maintain their consumer base. The Time magazine article emphasized the lead scientist, Evarts Graham's, conclusion that the danger in tobacco was proven beyond any doubt. Public opinion was shaken after this. Furthermore, stock prices for American cigarettes plummeted, despite the tobacco industry's attempt to advertise the health benefits of its product. This was seen as a public health scare and a major threat to the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry was forced to explore new advertising strategies. One new strategy used by the industry was denial. On December 14, 1953, the CEOs of the 7 leading tobacco companies met in Manhattan to plan ways to refute the evidence and attempt to salvage cigarette sales. They collectively agreed to deny the evidence through a public announcement that discredited the experiment published in Time and Life magazine. As a result, they exchanged their focus of their old advertising techniques that concentrated on the filterless cigarette to new products, such as filtered cigarettes and smokeless tobacco. The tobacco industry's strategy was to market these products as safe and hire chemists and doctors to support their claims. The tragic irony is that the tobacco companies said they were making cigarettes safer, but in reality, they were becoming more deadly because it was that much easier to inhale. In addition, the tobacco companies made public calls for more research to resolve the controversy, all while refuting the evidence and admitting to nothing. Cigarette companies not only faced problems concerning public opinion, but also new regulation that the United States government enforced. In 1970, Congress passed the Public Health Smoking Act. After the television ban, most cigarette advertisements were found in magazines, newspapers, and on billboards. The tobacco industry once again encountered a new obstacle for their marketing strategies that forced them, yet again, to devise another plan. By the mid-1970s, the tobacco industry explored another tactic to tap into the customer base, the youth. Prior to the medical discovery, it wasn't uncommon for kids to smoke cigarettes. However, tobacco companies had never directly targeted them in their advertising. According to a 1973 tobacco company, R.J. Reynolds' internal memo, attracting underage smokers was a primary objective. The result was R.J. Reynolds' highly successful Joe Camel campaign. Joe Camel was introduced in the summer of 1988, a cartoon character as part of an extensive campaign that would capture a larger segment of the youth market. Studies published in 1991 in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that Joe Camel was nearly as recognizable to 6-year-olds as Mickey Mouse.
Kids love Joe. Researchers in 1991 found more kids knew Joe Camel than knew Mickey Mouse.
And that Joe Camel ads are far more successful at marketing Camel cigarettes to children than to adults. R.J. Reynolds finally ended the Joe Camel campaign in 1997 in the face of lawsuits, congressional scrutiny, and public outrage. The Master Settlement Agreement put a stop to all tobacco companies advertising towards young adults, which passed in 1998. The tobacco industry reached a legal settlement that required them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars to cover tobacco-related healthcare costs, and it prohibited direct or indirect marketing to youth. Throughout the entire legal negotiation, the tobacco companies still refused to admit that their products were addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive. I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
Dr. Campbell, I assume that...
However, the tobacco companies lost. This resulted in the necessary elimination of any use of cartoons in tobacco advertising, such as Joe Camel. The MSA did not stop the R.J. Reynolds campaign towards children. Instead, the tobacco company sought new avenues in which to entice young adult consumers. For example, in 2004, the Camel Candy Store opened, selling a wide array of flavored cigarettes. However, all of this came to a halt on June 22, 2009. This is when the Tobacco Control Act was signed into law.
Been a long time coming. We've known for years, even decades, about the harmful, addictive, and often deadly effects of tobacco products. Each year, Americans pay nearly $100 billion in added healthcare costs due to smoking.
However, this law does not extend to e-cigarettes, the tobacco industry's newest strategy. Just like in the 1950s, when the tobacco companies claimed their cigarettes were healthy, companies manufacturing e-cigarettes today promote their product in the same way. The tobacco companies are now reusing their old strategies of enticing young smokers by their array of child-friendly flavors, as well as the celebrity endorsements and appearance in popular music videos.
With Blue e-cigs, there's no tobacco smoke, only vapor.
These strategies are made possible because of the lack of regulation on the tobacco industry's new product, the e-cigarette. However, this may soon change because the FDA is making moves to regulate e-cigarettes alongside conventional cigarettes. Consequently, there have been robust tests on the contents of e-cigarettes performed by the FDA Center for Drug Evaluation. It is not surprising that history is yet again repeating itself. Just like in the 1950s, the tobacco industry continues to lie to the public in order to promote their unhealthy products to bring in sales. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in men and women worldwide. People around the world are searching for a cure, yet it is right in front of their eyes. 2/3 of the world's cancer-related deaths can be traced back to tobacco. What most people do not realize is that the cure to cancer is in their hands.